Hi, everybody. I'm Chelsea. You probably know me. I'm the founder of Close. We do B2B sales solutions and LinkedIn services. I'm here today with Ryan, who's a friend of mine from college, and we reconnected about 2 weeks ago. I started having a chat with him, and it was really interesting because he's in sales. He's been in sales for a while, and he runs a team. And I said, we should do a LinkedIn Live because I think he's going to teach you guys a whole bunch about what's going on in sales today. So, Ryan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Chelsea. Ryan Jackson. I am the Sales Development and Training Manager for GovSpend.
Perfect. And I do have to warn you guys, I have been sick. My kids got me sick. So if I have to pause this video or I sound weird or I'm coughing, that is why. But we're not going to cancel this meeting. Like that wasn't going to happen. So, all right. So let's jump in. Take me through just like a little bit of your own personal journey, like how you got into sales and how you landed in what you're doing today.
Yeah. So I've been in sales. I got in sales a couple of years after I graduated college. Graduated college in 2010. So I've been in sales for, 11, 12 years now. My first sales role was cold calling people to sell them season tickets to arena football. So that was a fun introduction into the cold calling sales world. It was good because it was hard. So I've always felt like, well, it can't get much harder than that. But ever since I got into sales, I loved it. I enjoyed it immediately. It's challenging. It was like a game. It's rewarding as well. It's something typically always different every day, which has been great. And then I joined GovSpend in 2014. It was an early stage startup company at the time. So about 20 employees or so. When I joined, very entrepreneurial mindset, which I loved. That was awesome. We've grown, of course, over the years, multiple rounds of funding I've been through, and was acquired about 3 years ago. So my journey throughout that time was I was an individual contributor. We didn't have SDRs at the time, so we did everything, right? We did the hunting, the demo setting, and then ran the full sales cycle. As we grew, we started hiring SDRs, and I started having SDRs report to my team. I was a sales manager for many years. And then I really enjoyed the managing, coaching, developing piece with SDRs, right? Because I remember me early in my sales career not knowing what's what and trying to figure things out. And I've had a lot of people help me over the years along the way. And I always really appreciated that, wanted to then give back. So I get a lot of reward working with the folks who are more newer into the sales world, right? And coaching them up and seeing them develop and then grow as an AE. And a lot of folks we've had grow into managers. I mean, a lot of the managers at our company started in the SDR role. So that's been awesome to see. So that's why I've transitioned into a more of a focusing with the SDRs and running some trainings.
I love that. So you said something interesting that you like working with the beginner SDRs. And I actually find them really fun to work with as well. But I also can tell pretty much within like a week of training someone or working with them and teaching them what I do, if they're going to make it or not. So tell me a little bit about like working with new SDRs. What are some of the things that you see in them that you're like, yeah, that's going to be someone that's successful and it's going to move their way up. And maybe that someone needs to, not be in sales and shift seats.
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, I'm sure it's probably more important in a sales role than just most other types of careers. One thing, and it's hard to find this out during the interview process I found, but do they just have that natural like hunger and desire to either be really good or be great? Like want to get better all the time. And also the coachability, like they want to get better. And then they also want to be coached up and take feedback and continue to grow. That's something those are the main things that I've seen have been so important in the folks that succeed, because after you get out of training, you're kind of in a way you're on your own, during the day for the most part. And you have to find ways to figure it out yourself. Of course, you always have support from your manager or your team, and that's obviously important, but it really falls on you as well to, again, want to be great, want to get better, want to reach out and learn from others. That's what I found that's been super important. And you really don't know until you're in the seat, until you have that rep in the seat. I always say to people during the interview process, like, hey, everything may sound great now, but once you get on the phone, that's when we will really find out.
So are you guys doing cold outreach via the phone?
Yes. Yeah. Phone. Our primary is phone. I mean, phone, email, and LinkedIn has really picked up over the last few years too.
Good, good. So the reps day, what does it look like?
Yeah. So of course it's our company has historically been and still to this day a cold outreach, an outbound outreach approach. So we don't rely much on inbound business. We get inbound business and leads, of course, but the far majority of our business comes from outbound activity and outreach. So the majority of their day is account research, outbound activity. And because of some of the unique data that we have in our platform and our database, we're able to leverage a lot of the data we have in our outreach. So a lot of time is spent within our own product, finding and gathering insights to then send to our prospects.
Gotcha. So, but do your SDRs have like a strict process that they follow every day on outreach, whether it be like hitting a certain amount of cold calls, certain amount of email, certain amount of LinkedIn connection requests, comments, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we're trying to get a better grasp around of what those more firm numbers should be. We have some, 50 dials, 40 emails, a certain amount of demos. LinkedIn's a little harder to track, of course, but we have some numbers, but it's evolved over the years, right? Especially post COVID and this work from home world, we were always in the office. So we were in office Monday through Friday. And then of course, COVID happened and we never went back to the office since. So it's now like maybe one day a week, but a lot of our reps are remote at home. So since then it's kind of changed of what are the best numbers, right? From a number of calls. So we have stuff, but I would say one thing we want to figure out though more is like in this new world, what those best metrics should be.
And then you are running the automated outbound cold email in the background as well. I'm pretty sure you're doing that, right? So, so they're really just focused on that one-to-one outreach.
One-to-one outreach, right? And they, again, utilizing phone, email, and LinkedIn for that.
And being that they're from home, right? Like, how do you hold someone accountable? Do you have them reporting back to you daily? Do you do like a weekly check-in? Do they send their outreach metrics every Friday? Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah. So recently we have a tool that we have now, which does a really great job of being able to track a lot of their metrics. So it tracks phone calls, minutes, even texts they send and emails they send. And then also the number of accounts they touch and the number of contacts that they touch as well. So we get really good insights from a tool we use now, which has been great, right? And we've been able to see an increase in the number of accounts they've been touching, and also an increase in, it's now a 2-to-3-1 ratio of contacts per account. So now we have that live, so I can send that out daily and weekly as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that kind of integrates with your CRM, so you're able to see how many accounts they're pulling up every day. And like you did ask me, okay, with LinkedIn, how can you do it? So, you know, there are things that you can do. Because like I've always said, LinkedIn is the best complement to this, especially with the SDRs. And a big thing that people aren't having their SDRs do, which I do need to throw out there, is like creating content. We're creating content as an SDR to support the outreach this way when they're doing the cold calls, the cold emails, the LinkedIn outbound. And a prospect is curious, because usually a prospect won't just book a call. They'll be curious that they go to your SDR's LinkedIn profile and there's content there that supports them in their own research journey. So like when I have SDRs, and I come in a lot fractionally to head up sales and to train SDRs and hold them accountable, I actually have them spend at least like a half hour every other day just creating some type of content. But even if it's something just like a selfie with like a personal story, it doesn't have to be some amazing carousel, but just something that will be up on LinkedIn, and then sharing like customer success stories, case studies, things like that, just to support the outreach. You know, we do see an uptick, but I find it has been increasingly harder to get SDRs sometimes to do the work. I'm going to be honest, like it has not been easy. But I think it's always been hard, like when you're in office, yeah, like some people would pretend to be busy, but it was harder to fake it, right?
Right.
Working from home, it's definitely been a challenge. So one thing I've even done is like activity monitoring and put on certain things like Toggle. Have you guys done anything like that?
No, it's interesting having something like that. This new tool we have has done a really good job of monitoring some of that. But activity monitoring, we haven't, although it sounds interesting.
What's the name of your tool?
So it's called Front Race.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually one of the founders of GovSpend. It's his new project now.
Okay. Very interesting. Very cool. Okay. So we'll definitely drop that in the comments below, because I think, teams struggle with this. And I think it's also like, it goes to this like philosophical question, right? And some leaders don't think trust is earned. So they just give trust away freely. And then they say, okay, you have my trust until you break it. And then some leaders say, no, we're actually going to start at level 1 and we're going to work our way up to trust level, let's say 6. And at level 1, I don't know you and we have to build trust. So I'm going to use more of that like activity monitoring type of thing. And I'm going to micromanage you a little bit more. As a leader, like which one do you tend to fall into?
Yeah, I kind of tend to lean more the first, where it's given. There's no perfect right answer, right? So I tend to, my philosophy is like, hey, I want to treat you like an adult, you act like an adult, kind of thing. And then it's up to you of how you make it, right? So you have not full freedom, but you have the ability where I'm not going to be on top of you every day of what you're doing. And if you're producing, awesome, great, continue to produce, right? You're bringing in revenue. We always say like revenue trumps all. You bring in revenue, things are great. Obviously, as long as you're, doing it the right way. However, if certain things aren't being met, then it's time to kind of look at things a little deeper and go under the microscope to see what's going on. And a lot of it too, I tend to, is like going back to the beginning, one of your first questions, does this person want it? Like, do they have a desire to be great, and do they want to get better? And if I know that, if I trust that and believe that with the rep, and numbers at times may be lagging, I tend to think, okay, well, let's just look at your process, and there's probably something going wrong in the process, rather than like you're not working. I think I found recently that it's been less that the reps are, it's not that they're necessarily not working, but some inefficiencies in their day-to-day process. And it's like, let's uncover those and see. And I think that's what's slowing you down. So I tend to let them, give them some freedom, see what they do with it. And then if there are some issues, kind of go deeper and find out the why.
So I've always been like you. And this year I've been like, I don't know if that's the best thing. And I've been like that in like all my relationships as well. And this gets a little heady, but I did this leadership training program with a company called Alter Call, and they mix like consciousness with business. Okay. And part of this training is actually like building that trust, right? So not just freely giving trust and saying, no, we're going to start at level 1 and then we're going to work our way up from there. And that's been a little bit better just for me personally, because I think I was always such like like I'll give you trust. Just when you break it, we'll deal with it. Right.
Yeah.
But as a leader, maybe it's because I'm a female, I don't know, but people have definitely taken advantage of that. So I've had to kind of like tighten it a little bit. So you mentioned inefficiencies. Do you think one of the inefficiencies is tech related, or more like they just don't know what to say in their outreach?
I think, that's a good question. What is it more of? I think more, what to say, struggling with what to say. We use a lot of what we call screenshots, right? We take screenshots of the data and insights we find within our own product, which has been awesome. It's been a thing that helps sets us apart in cold outreach, is we have a very unique data set in the market. And when we're able to show that to folks and they see it, they typically are very interested. So I think a lot of the slowdown in inefficiencies is, hey, what do I need to go find something important, find that data. What should I go find that's important? And that slows them down a lot, which goes along the lines of like, what do I say? Like, what am I going to say to this person and reach out?
Yeah.
Emails, right? Emails certainly are a time, like that slows reps down a lot.
Yeah, that's what I find too. It's they really just don't know what to say. Like when I do this with LinkedIn, so part of the LinkedIn Accelerator program I teach, it's like they do a comment on a post for the prospect, then they'll comment on the business page because I'm in B2B, then they'll go send a connection request with a personalized message. And these people like fall apart. They're like, what do I comment? What do I write? I'm like, just write something. Like, I don't, like read it. It's kind of like my daughter who does 5th grade comprehension. She reads an essay and then she answers questions. It's like the same thing. Read the post, write a comment, and then reach out based on something you're seeing, because this prospect is in your industry. They probably have the problem, that you solve. So like say something, ask a question, like
say something. Right.
Don't be weird. Like I have a metaphor and I always say like, just write like you sat next to somebody on the train. Like you wouldn't spam them and be like, I'm Chelsea and I do blah, blah, blah. Like here's my Calendly link. You wouldn't do that.
Exactly. I found early in my sales career with emails, I fell into that. I was trying to be like super professional and very wordy. And then I found out that, less is more, right? And I found like, hey, direct, like a 1-sentence email that's direct works way better than a super formal email. Like cut out the fluff. And sometimes I say to reps, like, just at the end of the day, what do you want to say to this person? And they usually tell me what they want to say. And it's like, that's what you type. Just put that in there. Even with rebuttals and stuff, like, hey, they asked me this question. What should I say back? I say, ultimately, what do you want to say to this person? Oh, I want to find out if they're still interested. Just, all right, so send an email and ask them if they're still interested instead of adding a lot of the fluff.
Yeah. And like, I think ChatGPT is even kind of like hurting us a little bit here, because it gets people like even more in their head, because there's 70 ways that you can say something with ChatGPT, and you'll be like, they'll be like, they'll ask ChatGPT, like, is this a good response? Right. And then ChatGPT will be like, well, you could add 1,400 words. Like, and no one speaks like that. You just have to speak to people like a normal human.
Correct.
Stop with the jargon and just say something. And I agree with you, like brevity, 1, 2, 3 sentences max. People don't have time. They don't have time to read.
They don't. I always remember at GovSpend years ago, we had a rep who was more experienced, and he worked with our enterprise clients. Yeah. And I used to see his emails, and he was emailing back and forth. It looked like he was texting with his friends, like a couple of words, very direct to a high-level person at an enterprise level account. And I couldn't believe it. And it worked, because at the end of the day, right, my reps, like, these are humans on the other end of the phone or the computer. They're just regular people that you meet in your everyday walk of life. Just talk to them like normal, just a normal conversation. They actually appreciate that, so that they know what you want and they can get back to you, so they can get on with their day.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, like, the reps sometimes really don't understand the buyer and the problem they're solving. So then it becomes even more difficult. Although I write copy all day for businesses that, like, I don't even know what the hell they do, honestly. Just because I'm constantly coaching and giving advice, and people ask me, and I'll just send them like I don't know, try this, like they didn't hire me, so I'm just being nice. Obviously, if you hire me, I'm going to research your company.
Nice, got it.
Yeah, but with your company, GovSpend, like, what problem do you specifically solve? Let's start there.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the helpful things about what we do is we can solve a lot of problems. So a big problem that we have is for companies that sell to government, sell into the public sector, school district, to a city, to a federal government agency. We're able to kind of show them a lot of the discretionary spending that never goes out to public bid. And we have found that there's a lot of business that's done on a non-bid level, right? So if an agency needs to go to bid, they'll post that out. That's publicly posted online. Lots of people then compete on that. However, there's all this other spending that's done in a bunch of other ways, different vehicles, that if you're not part of that business, you're really not going to be able to see it, at least in an easy, efficient way. And we track a lot of that. So we're able to say, hey, we can give you insights into your market or by a competitor that you go up against and see all of this business they're doing in your territory that you probably don't know of and you can't see. So a big thing is like, hey, we're going to show you all of this spending that you can win that's not going out to bid that you don't see right now. So that's a big one that we can focus on.
And that to me is like very easy to do outreach around, because you have this unique data set. And then you could also just research, like, if you know the prospect, like what they're selling, you could be like, hey, you know, did you see this go up? Like, did you, because I did RFPs for a long time with my clients. Like, we were in the RFP world, government RFPs. So if you showed me something that wasn't an RFP and it was like we could have sold it off the RFP market, you know, that would have been intriguing to me at the time.
Right.
Because like you're saying, like it's hidden. Like the RFPs are easy to access. You know, you get on a GSA list, you get the RFPs. But if you want access to this whole other world, it just takes somebody saying like, hey, did you see this? And they're gonna be like, no, I didn't. Okay, let's have a conversation now. Oh, you didn't see that, you know, like the school next door was hiring, you know, I don't know, trying to get 4,000 rolls of toilet paper and you sell toilet paper. Okay.
Exactly.
Why didn't you see that? So it's like you have an easy, I feel like, entry point.
Yes.
For outreach, just because by the nature of what you do.
Exactly. Exactly. And we have some of our top reps. You said, are you aware of this? That's a lot of their emails. That's the subject line. Are you aware of this with an agency? And say, hey, this just posted. I mean, we get data every day, so we can show a purchase order from yesterday at times when it is. Hey, were you aware of this? More of this is going out. If you're interested in exploring the market, let me know. And I think some of the reps that struggle with just simplifying that message, right? Mm-hmm. They find a good screenshot or a good meeting that posted, but they struggle with the message, right? We're trying to like feature dump all of the stuff that GovSpend can do in an email. And it's like, how about just send one sentence related to the problem that we may be able to solve in the screenshot, right? It's like, that's it. Just focus on that. And it also saves you time.
Yeah. And it's honestly, it's like the problem you solve is people don't have access to this information that you have access to. And they're by not having access, leaving probably millions of dollars on the table.
Exactly. Right.
Like I worked for a marketing agency and like literally all we did was respond to RFPs. Maybe we want to pull my hair out.
Oh, it's so tough.
You know,
time consuming. You don't win a lot. It's very challenging, right? You can not make great margins on it. There's a ton. And if you're a company that can also do business without going through the formal bid process, it's very valuable data to uncover a lot of other channels that you can focus on.
Yeah. And in the formal bidding process, there's usually an incumbent. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
Like you're really just kind of getting in there for the numbers game. They're never really going to buy from you anyway.
Exactly.
So yeah, like you have honestly, a great service for companies. They should definitely, if people are watching this, they should.
That's right. Like, yes. We'll show you free examples, right? The demo. The best part, cool too, is like, hey, we're going to set up a demo with you, and it's a live search in the database. It's not this demo version of sample data.
Right.
Like, you want to see a competitor and contracts you're losing, we're going to show you that on the demo, like within the first few minutes. So it's very like attention grabbing immediately too.
Yeah. And if you reach out to someone and be like, hey, did you know your competitor just won this? And they're gonna be like, wait, what? Why didn't I even see it? Why didn't I even know it was an option to bid on that?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, that's the value that we preach to continue to send. We just have found, and everybody's going through this, is it's just increasingly harder to get people's attention, right? Obviously. Yeah. So it's just everybody's getting lots of emails and phone calls and LinkedIn. You just have to stay consistent and increase the volume and not let go of a person too early. Stay on top of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. How many outreach attempts do you advise your SDRs to do?
Yeah, I mean, at least 7 to 8 touches. I'm of the belief of as long as you're like, again, the data we're sending, as long as you're sending something relevant, it's well thought out, you're sending them something that you believe is valuable and relevant, like it's okay to hit them up a bunch of times over a couple of weeks. You don't have to email them every day and say, are you interested? Any thoughts? Don't do that. You don't have to call every day and spam them. But if you're selling relevant stuff and you reach out once, twice, a couple times a week for 3-4 weeks, I find that perfectly okay, because we're sending them stuff that's relevant. We're not just sending an email that says any thoughts, right? Those are the ones that people get annoyed by. So a lot of touches, 7, 8 touches, and then expand your cast of characters if needed.
Mm-hmm.
If you're stuck with a few contacts, continue to go elsewhere if needed.
That's huge. So one thing I see is SDRs will reach out to 2 or 3 people at an account, and then they'll be like, no one responded, or someone said no and it's dead. And it's like, whoa, there's 8 to 12 decision makers on a B2B deal. Those are decision makers. There's like 100 influencers of that decision.
Right.
So we all should be casting a wider net, like 110%. That's like the best advice. And I do think people are inundated with messages right now. And if you want to cut through the clutter, you kind of have to keep reaching out, which sucks. No one wants to be that person. They feel like they're spamming, but there really is no other way.
There's not. And I tell them, again, everybody people will look at spam differently, of course. So my version of spam may be different from yours or someone else's, but I explain to them, spamming them is constant bump emails of, are you interested? Any thoughts? Yeah. Can we set up time? Stop asking for time and ask for interest, or ask if this is of relevance or value, and include some value. To me, that's not spam. So continue to do that. And I think eventually you'll separate yourself from a lot of the clutter that's out there.
Because you're providing value.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's so funny to me when I meet with business owners and they don't want to do cold email, like they don't want to do outreach, and because they're just so personally triggered by their own inbox. I'm like, yeah, this is like more of an emotional issue that's getting in the way of your revenue. Like, you need to go see a therapist, and then let's do an outbound sales system, because you can't think like that. It's just the world we live in. So you have to provide value. You have to. I completely agree. Well, I think I passed my cough to you. That's funny.
Better. There we go. Thank you.
There we go. Is there anything that you would, just closing out here, like advice-wise, give to an SDR who's struggling right now?
Yeah, multiple things. I think the first thing is be honest with yourself. And is this something that you want and that you enjoy? I think, especially in sales is hard. And if you don't enjoy it, man, it's probably got to be one of the hardest jobs that you can be in. Having to cold outreach people every day and you don't like it, it's not worth it. So for me, that's always the first, being honest with yourself. Now, if you do, and you enjoy this and you want to get better, reach out to some folks, see what they're doing that you can emulate and scale. And then the other piece is like, just don't give up, keep going. Like, really, you're struggling right now, but I always say, if you stay consistent doing the little things, over time, it's going to turn around. I always say, like, it's a pendulum, right? Sometimes it swings the terrible way for sometimes weeks on end of just like, nobody gets back to me, people are saying no. Like, that's just the nature of sales. Sometimes you're just in that.
Yeah.
But if you stay consistent and you do all of those little things right, that add up over time, the variance will swing the other way on a positive note. So I think have someone help you look at your process and what you're doing, see if there's anything that you can tweak. If it's broken, good to know. Or if they're saying, hey, what you're doing is pretty good, but tweak these little things, and you just have to stay consistent, because over time it'll turn around.
That's great advice. Get a mentor and then be consistent. And I do agree with you. I believe in karma. And I've never, ever seen a rep who's actually done outreach. And it could be shit outreach. They could be saying the weirdest stuff, but just done the outreach consistently, not eventually grow a book. Like, it's just, they'll eventually figure out what works. They'll eventually learn, okay, I shouldn't write a 10-page essay and I should write 1 question sentences and then send the button, send the email. Like, they'll learn over time, but the only way to get there is to be consistent and do it every day.
It has to be. As one of my mentors years ago, he always says, it's all of the little things. The little things is what separates good from great, or success to not success, or consistency is all of those little things that one of them doesn't make a huge impact, but doing all of them or most of them consistently and sticking to it over time, that's what adds up.
Well, I love that. Perfect way to end. Thank you so much for joining me on a live. If people want to learn more about your company or connect with you, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yes. So I'm on LinkedIn, Ryan Jackson on LinkedIn. Our website is govspend.com. So GOV is like short for government spending. So GOVSPEND.com. So go in there to check us out. There's a contact us form on there. If you want to look at a demo, that goes right to our sales team, who will contact you for a free demo to explore your market. Or find me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to chat with folks.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ryan. Appreciate you jumping on.
Better. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.